Okay, think about it for a second. How many times, just today, have you pulled out your phone for a photo, capturing something quick, sharing food, maybe, I don't know, scanning a QR code? It's just everywhere, isn't it? Really ubiquitous. But, beyond those everyday snaps, have you ever stopped to think about the actual market, the huge industry behind those tiny lenses? Is it, like, peaking? Or is there still loads of growth ahead? Today, that's what we're doing. A deep dive into the global cell phone camera market. Let's find out. Right, so our mission today, peel back the layers on this thing. We've got a detailed market forecast here, and we want to really understand the key takeaways. Cut through the noise, You might actually be surprised by how big this market has become and what's really pushing it. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's kick things off with the big global numbers, the headlines. This market, literally sitting in your pocket, right? It was valued at $33,001.6 million back in 2021. Pretty huge already. Then looking ahead to 2025, the projection is $41,350.2 million. And get this, the forecast goes out to 2033, expecting it to hit a massive $64,917.7 million. Wow. Yeah, and that's underpinned by a steady compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 5.8%. So, okay, those are some seriously big numbers, lots of zeros. But what's the story behind them? What does this sustained growth really, signify for us?
Well, what's really fascinating, I think, is just how relentless that upward curve is. It's not just, oh, more people are buying phones. It reflects a really deep fundamental shift, how we use technology, what we expect from it. The camera on your phone, it's gone from being just another feature to often the core reason someone chooses a particular phone. It's driving value. It signifies a market that's just constantly being pushed by, well, frankly, relentless tech advancements. Things like computational photography, bigger sensors, more AI.
Right, all that stuff.
Exactly. And all of that is meeting this almost insatiable consumer demand. People now see a good camera as just essential, non-negotiable.
That really does put those big figures into perspective. It's not just volume, it's sophistication driving it. And like you said, this growth isn't the same everywhere. So this is where it gets really interesting, I think, looking at the regions. Where should we start? Asia Pacific. Sounds like the big one.
Oh, absolutely. Asia Pacific isn't just leading. It's really the powerhouse, the main engine driving this whole market. Back in 2021, it accounted for $13,134.6 million.
Right.
And the projection for 2033, an incredible $26,551.3 million. Just huge.
Wow, almost doubling.
Pretty much. And within that, China is, well, dominant. It's forecast to hit $11,841.9 million by 2033. But here's something really remarkable, India.
Okay.
India's market is projected to just soar from about $2.4 billion in 2021
Right.
to nearly $5 billion, $4,991.65 million to be precise, by 2033. That's one of the highest growth rates in the whole region.
And why is that specifically in India?
Well, it's partly rising smartphone adoption overall, of course, but for many people there, the phone camera isn't just a camera, it's their main camera, often their only one.
Okay. That makes sense.
So that fuels demand for, capable imaging, but maybe at more affordable price points too. And beyond those two giants, China and India, you see really strong, consistent, positive trends across Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Southeast Asia, Taiwan.
Yeah.
It's broad-based growth.
Okay, so Asia Pacific, definitely the heavyweight champion here. But the story doesn't end there, obviously. Let's pivot across the Pacific. North America. Still a substantial piece of the pie, right?
Absolutely. North America's market, while smaller than Asia Pacific, is still incredibly robust. It's growing from around $8.5 billion in 2021 to a projected $16.3 billion, roughly, by 2033. So again, significant growth.
In the U.S. leads that, presumably.
Predictably, yes. The U.S. is expected to be worth about $13.9 billion by 2033. Canada also shows solid, steady growth. But you know what really stands out in North America, looking at the data?
What's that?
Mexico.
Really?
Yeah. Its cell phone camera market is forecast to basically explode.
Well,
From only about $51 million in 2021
tiny.
to $277 million by 2033. And check out the CAGR, 10.399%.
Wow, over 10% CAGR. That's impressive.
It really is. And it tells us something important, I think, that the demand for these advanced cameras isn't just limited to, the traditional big tech markets. It's spreading fast into other dynamic economies. It shows a much wider global appetite.
Yeah, that Mexico number really highlights that broad global appetite you mentioned. Fascinating. Okay, speaking of global, let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe. How's the European market looking in all this? Is it keeping pace?
Europe shows very steady, very consistent expansion. Maybe not the explosive growth of some emerging areas, but solid. The overall market there is set to nearly double, from about $7.4 billion in 2021 to $14.2 billion by 2033.
Doubling is still pretty significant.
Oh, absolutely. And if you break it down, the UK, Germany, France, they're all major players, showing strong growth into the billions. Germany, for example, is predicted to hit almost $2.8 billion by 2033. The UK, over $2.1 billion. France, around $1.6 billion. Italy, Russia, too, all growing steadily.
Right.
But what's also quite compelling is the growth in the rest of Europe category in this forecast.
Okay.
That segment is set to almost triple in value, from about $1.1 billion to nearly $2.9 billion by 2033.
Triple. Wow. So that points to broader adoption.
Oh. Exactly. It indicates really robust, widespread demand beyond just those biggest economies, probably driven by, increasing smartphone use everywhere, digital transformation across the continent. It's not just concentrated in a few spots.
Right. So not just the usual suspects, but real breadth across Europe. That definitely reinforces this whole global picture. What about the other key regions? South America, the Middle East, Africa, are they part of this growth story too? Catching the wave?
Absolutely. The wave is definitely global. South America, for instance, is projected to grow from about $1.4 billion in 2021 to over $2.5 billion by 2033. Brazil is the major contributor there, expected to hit around $1.2 billion itself.
Right.
Then you look at the Middle East, strong potential there. It's forecast to nearly triple its market value, from $1.45 billion up to nearly $3.2 billion by 2033. Saudi Arabia is a key market to watch, expected to hit over $500 million. And finally, Africa, sometimes overlooked, but it's projected to pretty much double its market, from about $1.1 billion to $2.1 billion by 2033.
Doubling.
Yeah, with countries like Nigeria and South Africa really leading that charge. Nigeria projected around $400 million, South Africa over $850 million by 2033. So yeah, these numbers just confirm it. The expansion is truly global. And it reflects, more smartphones, rising middle classes, and just a growing appreciation everywhere for better camera features, even in markets we might traditionally think of as emerging.
It really is remarkable just seeing that consistent upward trend region after region. And like you were saying, these figures, they aren't just numbers on a page. They reflect this kind of perfect storm, right? Rapid tech advances, multi-lens cameras, bigger sensors, all the processing magic.
The computational photography, yeah.
Exactly. Meeting this just huge rising consumer demand. Doesn't matter if you're in a developed economy or an emerging one. It really does feel like the smartphone camera has shifted from being a nice extra to basically an essential tool for everyone.
That sums it up perfectly. If you connect all these dots, the bigger picture is crystal clear. The cell phone camera isn't just a feature anymore, it's core. Often it's the deciding factor when someone buys a phone. It's driving adoption, it's driving market value globally. And this sustained growth, it has massive implications for innovation. Manufacturers are under constant pressure to deliver the next breakthrough. Better low light, sharper zoom, smarter AI.
Right, the next big thing.
Exactly. Improving stabilization, making these phones into genuinely capable imaging tools. Yeah. It just keeps raising the bar for consumer expectations. Every pocket now holds, potentially, a mini photo studio.
So there you have it. I mean, this deep dive really shows it, doesn't it? The cell phone camera market is this huge, expanding global force. It's being pushed forward by constant innovation met by this just insatiable demand, and every single region is playing a significant part in that growth. Now, for our final thought today, we've seen the incredible scale, right? This multi-billion-dollar market, how fast the tech evolves. But here's something to think about. What happens if, or maybe when, the demand for just, more megapixels or another lens starts to level off, starts to plateau? What new imaging tech or maybe applications we haven't even thought of yet could emerge as the next big driver, the next big thing pushing growth in mobile tech? How might that shift these forecasts we've been looking at? Something to mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something most of us use every single day. Cell phone cameras. I mean, it's pretty amazing how central they've become, right? Just for capturing everything.
Oh, absolutely. And our goal today is really to cut through some of that marketing hype, to understand what's really driving this massive market. It's way more than just pictures. It's about how this tech is changing, well, almost everything in our daily lives.
Right. And for this, we're looking at some solid market research, stuff that really shows the drivers, the constraints, and the big trends in mobile photography. You might actually be surprised by some of this.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's jump in. The first big driver, and this won't shock anyone, is this huge consumer demand for DSLR quality photos from your phone. That pro look, sharp details, good in low light, all in your pocket. What does that actually mean in terms of innovation?
Well, that demand, it's not just a nice to have, it's really pushing things forward. It forces companies to invest heavily in R&D. Better sensors, yeah, better lenses, sure, but maybe most importantly, computational photography. That's the software magic making the hardware perform miracles.
And you have to talk about social media here. Instagram, TikTok, they basically run on phone cameras, don't they? Especially the front-facing ones. It feels like that feedback loop is maybe the biggest driver of all.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to meet that demand, you see all this cool tech emerging, like periscope lenses, clever stuff, using mirrors to give you real optical zoom without a huge lens sticking out.
Right, keeps the phone slim.
Exactly. And stacked sensors for faster processing or quad pixel binning where, the phone combines pixels to grab more light.
Yeah.
Super useful at night. Plus all the AI stuff, real-time enhancements, night modes, scene recognition. It's bringing high-end results to, well, even mid-range phones now.
Okay, so there's tons of momentum pushing things forward. But there's always a flip side, isn't there?
Oh.
Let's talk about the challenges. First off, these camera systems are getting seriously complex and, well, expensive. Multiple lenses, bigger sensors. That adds up, especially for phones that aren't flagships.
Absolutely. And it's not just the cost of the parts. These powerful cameras generate heat and they drain battery. That's a real trade-off. You get amazing photos, but maybe your phone dies faster, it gets hot. It can compromise the overall experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. And another thing, maybe you've noticed this, at the high end, it feels like phones are getting harder to tell apart camera-wise, that diminishing differentiation.
That's a really key point.
When the specs are also similar, how does a brand even stand out anymore? It's almost like buying fancy headphones. They all sound great eventually. Makes choosing harder, actually.
It does. And that ties into another challenge, market saturation.
Yeah.
In places like North America or Europe, most people who want a smartphone already have a pretty good one, so they hold on to them longer.
Right, the upgrade cycle slows down.
Exactly. Which means slower adoption of the latest camera tech, even if it's really innovative. It puts a bit of a brake on growth.
Okay, so drivers, challenges. Where is this all heading? Let's talk future trends. What's getting you excited? One thing seems clear. Bigger sensors, higher megapixels. We're seeing like 1-inch sensors now.
Yeah.
And over 100 megapixels.
Yeah, that's huge. Literally. Makes a massive difference in detail. And crucially, how much light the camera gathers. It really starts to blur the lines with, dedicated cameras.
And besides just size, those zoom lenses you mentioned, the periscope and variable zoom ones, that's a real game changer, isn't it? Getting like 10x optical zoom without the bulk.
Yes. And alongside that, we're seeing more and more multi-camera setups becoming standard. Triple, even quad cameras.
Ultra-wide macro?
Yeah, exactly. Ultra-wide macro depth sensors. It just gives you incredible versatility and helps a lot with things like portrait mode, getting that nice background blur.
Okay, and one last big one. Video. We're seeing a massive push into 8K recording, cinematic features. Seems like they're really going after vloggers, mobile filmmakers now.
Oh, for sure. Advanced HDR, super steady stabilization, tools that not long ago you needed serious professional gear for. Now they're right there in your phone.
So wrapping up this deep dive then. It's clear the cell phone camera market is, well, incredibly dynamic. You've got strong growth, fierce competition, all driven by constant innovation and, let's face it, our digital habits. But it's also complex with real cost and market challenges.
Absolutely. Understanding these forces, the push and pull, is pretty vital for anyone in this space, whether you're just buying a phone, creating content, or working in the industry.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. With all these crazy advancements, but also the challenges, how do you think mobile photography might fundamentally change how we document our lives, how we remember things, say, in the next 5 years? Think about that balance between what the tech can do and what we actually need or want from it.